Hello, this is an update of my editor. I've made a lot of changes. I'm going to first showcase this project. This is the first project I'll showcase. So the first change I made is the ability to actually view inside this camera right inside of the editor instead of having to go to play mode. So as you can see, if I walk around, the camera follows the night. But if I actually click on this button, which I created over here, you'll see that I can actually, view inside that camera you saw there. And instead of having to go and run it in play mode, I can just run it, click this button, and then you see I'll view that camera right there. And also you see that it shows the UI. I updated the UI so it can only show when you're in this view. I thought it'd just be a little bit better. And also you can hide cameras now, so if you don't want to see the cameras, you can hide it. And the grid, you could always hide it. Those are some stuff you could do. One thing I also added was the ability to resize these panels. So if I click and drag, you see that I can resize it, which is something nice. And let's say I add this one over here, I can click and drag and it can resize the panel very nicely. It works pretty good. So another thing I did was this window button. What I can do is reset the windows, and it shows cases how it was to begin with. And another thing I can do is hide all the windows. I could hide the bottom, the left, the right, but I can hide all the windows, and you can see it's almost like I'm viewing just the top view. It's an interesting view. I can also just show the left side, only the left side, and I see the entity. I could just only show I could show the bottom and the left if I didn't want the inspector. I could also just hide the left side and show the right side if I just wanted to see the properties. That's what I would do, like this one over here. I just hide it and I could just see the properties of all the stuff. So yeah, it works pretty well. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually go out of this project, not this project over here, and I'm going to go to the regular editor, the original project, and I'm going to run it because this one requires a bunch of folder improvements. So I made a lot of improvements in the file management. Before it was very simple. It only had a back button and you could click on folders and files, but now it's a lot improved, a lot of improvements. As you can see, it looks completely different from last video. I added this folder section. So let me first begin some like the new stuff I added. So I'm going to click on this folder over here. One thing I can do is I can actually select files, and I'm going to click command to continue selecting, and I can select files, and I can actually drag them inside of folders. And you see, if I opened it, you see that the files is inside of the folder. And I can, do a lot of moving and selecting. I can also rename files. So if I go to one of these files over here, this one, and sorry about that, I'm gonna rename this one. I can rename it to dot, and if I submit it, the new name is dot. And if you see over here, there's also inspectors over here. I made it, you can view the image inside of the inspector. So let me actually go and showcase maybe this image. It's just the same thing as before, but before I had like this little toggle, and I thought it would be a little too difficult, especially if you're on touch, to click on it. So I said instead you just click on the image and it shows in the inspector, just like Unity. And if I open the slice editor, just the same slice editor as one of the previous videos, and the convert to Atlas, the same thing. And it just makes it a lot easier to view. Also, if I don't, I can just go somewhere else and I can still have it. If I click on this over here, it goes and replaces it back with the inspector properties of the entity. But if I click on this, I can now, see the image properties, and it's very useful. Like I can view the image, just the regular stuff I could do before. And another thing I could do is, delete files. So I have this file over here and I can delete it. So if I click delete, I'm not sure I want to delete it. Yes, click on it and it's deleted. You see, it's adding a lot of cool features. And, over here on the left side, I showed you before that it has folders. So instead of having to constantly click a back button to go to the right folder and then click folders, I can just click and you can scroll down. Maybe I want to go to the sprite animation folder, click here, sprite animation folder. Love folder over here. I can go to maybe nice. I can go to animations. I can go to sprite animations. I could even go to other folders. Pretty good. And if you see on the top side, you see that I have this type of timeline. This is inspired by Unity's timeline actually. So if I click on this, I can go straight to animations just based on the timeline. So if I go to nice, I can go on the timeline and click back. And it also works for image slices. So if I click on this, over here, it actually has the name of the image, and then backslice. I can click the back, and it takes me back to the folder. It's working very nice, you know. And I can also go and the nice, I can go and drag and drop it inside of this, and boom, it drops it back inside of here. This file, DFD, I don't know why I called it that. But you see, I can actually use this as a way to drag and drop files if I want to go back to a previous one. And I added a few interesting changes. Like if I go and drop this, you see that it's now blue. Before it didn't have any reaction. So now if I add it and I drop it, boom, it adds this inside of here, and it works flawlessly, and it works very nice. And so another thing I did was the ability to create scenes. That's one thing I did. So if I go down to here, the scenes, I did have scenes before, but I made this system a lot better. So you see, this is the scene we have now. One thing I can do is that if I'm in the scenes folder, so there's the assets folder, let me collapse this, the assets, the files, I probably will remove files because it's not really necessary that often, and scenes, so mainly assets and scenes, which I want to keep. If I'm in the scenes folder, I'll have a button that says new scenes. Also, I completely forgot to show that you can actually create folders inside of Codea now, inside of my editor. So if I click something called hey, and you know, it makes a folder now, and I can just delete it like a regular folder. And one thing I can do, I forgot to add the feature to actually delete it over here, but that's a bug. But one thing I can do is I can actually go and create a new scene by clicking this button over here, writing the name of the scene. Maybe I'll write it hello, change the name to the color to yellow, maybe not too yellow, and change extra properties. And if I click on it, it will create a new scene called hello, and it adds a file called, you know, the new scene of the new scene right here, and it looks very good, and it, you know, just pretty good, and I like this one. And also, one thing you can do is to go and delete the scene if you're in that scene and you delete it. So delete this. It will go back to the original blank thing because you have no scene open. Then you can just click on this over here, open the scene, and boom, you open the scene. And if you're on the current scene, what you can do is click on this scene and just edit some properties. So you won't be able to open it, but just edit the properties like the color and all these extra stuff. So yeah, these are some extra changes. I have a new feature I've been working on in the background, an animation timeline. I'll probably make a community post about it, and yeah, and showcasing the design. And yeah, this is the features I've added. So yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe, please.